This is KSL Sunday Edition with Boyd Matheson.
Welcome to Sunday Edition. I am Boyd Matheson. Each Sunday we attempt to divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense. We have conversations with great thinkers, great leaders, and great people making a difference. We talk politics so we can discuss social commentary, and we explore society so we can discuss principles and the people in America who live them. We bring the best and brightest to Utah, and we send the Utah model to our nation's capital and beyond. Well, this week in Washington, D.C., it's been aflame with controversy surrounding the vote to remove Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker of the House. On Thursday, former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan was on the campus of Utah Valley University at the Gary R. Herbert Institute for Public Policy, speaking with students, faculty, and community members about the state of the nation and the future of our republic. Speaker Paul Ryan was a one-man idea factory and policy entrepreneur, both as a member of Congress and as the 54th Speaker of the House of Representatives. He was always short on politics and rhetoric. His leadership was centered in the principles and policies that foster human flourishing and promote freedom, opportunity, and upward mobility for all. His latest work, American Renewal, is a blueprint of principle-based policies to control spending, make social programs sustainable, and ignite the social capital of civil society to promote prosperity. After the events at Utah Valley University, I sat down with Speaker Paul Ryan and had a wide-ranging conversation on everything from his reaction to what took place on the floor of the House a few days ago to how to deal with immigration and beyond. I began by simply asking his observation about an important group, his interaction with the students on the campus of Utah Valley University.
I do that a lot now. I teach economics at the University of Notre Dame, but I also go around the country speaking with young people. I think it's a good use of my time, frankly. I want to talk with young people about the future of their country and the need to get involved to solve the problems that we have, but also it gives me sustenance. It gives me hope because you meet with these really wonderful young people who are doing incredible things that gives me, confidence and hope for our future. So it does me a lot of good too.
That's good. As you had that conversation, give us a sense, a little bit of what you hear back from those young people. What is it? Some of them feel like they're disconnected from the process. Why are they disconnected? How do we reconnect them?
Yeah, I hear almost the same thing everywhere I go, which is interesting. You're sort of a walking focus group in a way. There are problems that seem intractable in our country that they want to know, is there a way out of these problems? I hear more and more about our mounting federal debt that they're going to inherit. It's a $33 trillion debt. These young people realize, wait a second, this is coming to me and my generation. We have to pay off your debt from your generation, from my generation, before we can start having our government and our programs. So I think there's an awakening to this problem and a desire to address it, and a lot of questions about that. What I am encouraged most about is young people are looking at the hyperpolarization that has sort of engulfed our country lately, engulfed democracy, frankly. And I think it's a lot of the fact that we're a more digital society, and the digitization has pulled us apart in many different ways. And the fact that young people are waking up to that, this doesn't look right. I don't like this. What can we do about this? This is a problem I'm sensing. So that, just the fact that young people are concerned about the polarization in our country, asking questions about how to get over it, what can they do about it, that is encouraging to me.
Yeah, that's a good first step to be sure. Yeah, I know one of the things that I heard on campus a lot today, a lot of people were talking about obviously what happened just in the last few days as it relates to the vacating the speakership. Give us your sense, having sat in that chair, led that body before, give us your sense of how you experienced what's happened this week.
It was a total disgrace. I think it was an absolute disgrace that they kicked the Speaker of the House out for doing his job. And they being, it was 4% of the Republican conference. 4% said to the other 96%, we're going to bring Congress to a screeching halt. We're going to kick the Speaker out for simply doing his job. And they're led by one disgraced, unethical, unprincipled demagogue. And that 7 people would follow him to do that, to me, is very disturbing. So, and I know there's a lot of raw emotions in Congress right now. Congress cannot function without a speaker. So, first and foremost, I think the Republican conference needs to fix this rule. Because what happens with these sort of entertainers in Congress, today's extreme tactic is tomorrow's normal behavior. And it's just a one-way ratchet. So I really think you got to fix this motion to vacate if any future speaker is to be at any way successful. Because in the job as speaker, you say no more than yes to members. Members are asking you for things constantly every day, and you can't say yes to all of these demands because you can't deliver on them. Or a lot of times people are asking for exclusive things to one another. So, I told this to the young kids, if people aren't mad at you as Speaker of the House, about 10 people aren't mad at you on any given day, you're not doing your job. And so if you have these people, these carnival barkers in Congress who are going to bring it to a screeching halt because they didn't get their way, that's not the way our founders set the legislature up to work. So they have to fix that, I think, for any future speaker to be successful.
I want to get to part of the politics versus the governing. It seemed that this was a moment where you could have had a group. I was kind of holding out some hope that perhaps the problem solver caucus of Democrats and Republicans, that they were built for that kind of moment. And yet the Democrats on that decided, no, we need to stay in lockstep. And reminding people that this was not a vote for Speaker, which you could say Democrats would obviously vote for Hakeem Jeffries. This was a vote to remove a Speaker.
Yeah, this is to vacate or not.
To vacate,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so to me, it didn't seem like there were very many people on the floor that were asking the more important question, which is, what's the best thing for the country? What's the best thing for the constituents I'm representing, as opposed to my political power or my party?
And mind you, Matt Gaetz brought this vacate motion, so he says, because Kevin McCarthy stopped the government from shutting down for 45 days, and he had a majority of Republicans and a majority of Democrats vote for that. And that is why he was being vacated. So the Democrats who voted for this resolution to not shut down the government, I too thought they were going to vote for him. I thought at least the problem solvers would say, this is crazy, this is bad for the institution, this is not how our system should work, let's not vacate the Speaker for doing something as simple as preventing a government shutdown. So I think they decided to take political advantage over protecting the institution. I think they made the wrong decision, and I think they thought, let's take the best player that Republicans have off the playing field. Kevin McCarthy is the best at recruiting. He's the best at raising funds for the majority. He's a very effective speaker. He's very effective he helped to build the majority. So I think they said, let's just take this guy off the playing field. They're not going to replace him with somebody as good, and we're going to get a political advantage out of their chaos. It will make us look better by comparison. So I think they chose a political advantage over institutional protection on that day.
Yeah, and that's where I worry most about the democracy, is where we really start to focus on this performative angles as opposed to really getting to the governing. We didn't elect these people to do politics. We elected them to govern and actually do the work of the people. And it seems like we're getting further afield from that core job and what we actually should be rewarding people and electing them to actually do.
Yeah, I think primaries matter a lot more than they ever used to. I think making sure that you elect people in primaries who are actually principal problem solvers and not just demagogues who are just trying to get famous. I think that's up to the voters too. I mean, and the parties need to make sure they back the right person who's going to be a John Curtis type, who's actually a really good congressman, a good problem solver. Yeah, I think we're in John's district, if I'm not mistaken, so I want to give a shout out to him. He's a great guy, a good congressman. That's the kind of person the founders envisioned going to Congress, and not these carnival barkers like Matt Gaetz.
Speaker Ryan has great confidence in the institutions of government and told me he believes the path back to elevated conversations and real policy discussions in Congress will actually begin with the young people of America. We're going to stay with my conversation with former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan when Sunday Edition continues on KSL 5 TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. I am Boyd Matheson. We're staying with my sit-down interview with former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan following his appearance at the Gary R. Herbert Institute for Public Policy at Utah Valley University. I worked with Speaker Ryan during my time in Washington, D.C., and we continued our conversation in a wide-ranging exploration about real solutions, from the national debt to immigration, social programs, and the future of the country. The United States is over $33 trillion in debt, and while we complain about conflict in Washington, sometimes collusion is the real problem. You simply cannot get $33 trillion in debt through conflict. You can only get there that deep in debt by absolute collusion. So I'm an equal opportunity offender when it comes to our fiscal failures. Both Republicans and Democrats in Washington are to blame. So I asked the former Speaker of the House if there were any left in Congress who were willing to have the crucial conversation and come to some consensus on controlling spending and actually reducing America's debt.
We know what to do to solve this debt crisis. I put this book right here. You know, this is my latest version. I used to write the budgets that I passed 4 budgets in the House that balanced the budget and paid off the debt. This book that we wrote at the American Enterprise Institute, it's a think tank I work at, is our latest version of showing how to do it. There are other ways of solving this problem. The point being is we can solve our debt crisis. We can get this debt under control. It'll take us time. We can do it, but we just don't have serious politics right now. We have fundamentally unserious politics. But to answer your question, are there people in Congress today that know how to solve this problem and are willing to solve this problem? Yes, but there's not enough of them. That's part of the problem. And it takes leadership. And right now, we do not have presidential leadership, frankly, from either front runner for the nominations that are willing to take on this challenge. They would rather play demagogic political populist politics on the debt crisis than actually leaning in, telling people hard truths, solving the problem. And the problem with our debt problem, the crisis, the longer you delay solving it, the uglier the options and solutions become. So that's why it's so much in our interest to get ahead of this problem, solve it on our own terms as a country, and do it in a bipartisan way than just simply let bad politics prevail, kick the can down the road, and then do emergency surgery in a debt crisis when the bond markets have turned on us.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit more about that. Unpack that a little bit. We often look at it in the perspective of you can do things by choice or wait and do them by chance.
Yeah.
And with the numbers that you described to the students here at Utah Valley University today, there's clearly going to come a point where the only way out is going to be draconian cut. It's going to be the kinds of things that hurt the poor and the most vulnerable the most.
Exactly. So think about who depends on what we call our entitlement programs. It's the safety net for the poor, and it's the old age programs. We call them old age in law. Health and retirement security for senior citizens and the safety net for the poor. That is, in essence, our social contract. That's our entitlement programs. Guess what? Republicans and Democrats agree, for the most part, that we have these. We want these programs. We in society think it's a good thing. So the problem is they were written in the 20th century in ways that are proving totally unsustainable in the 21st century. But these programs go back to like the 60s and the 30s. So we know so much more now about how better to run these programs, fulfill these missions than we knew then. So applying these new ideas and technologies and techniques to running these programs, changing them, is how you solve the debt crisis. And we can do it in a way that doesn't affect the benefits for people who are in or near retirement. So that's the good news in this story, if we act soon. But if we do it in a crisis, you're cutting everybody's benefits. Look, Social Security goes bankrupt in 2034. Everybody on Social Security gets a 30% benefit cut at that time. That's the way the law works. Medicare trust funds going bankrupt even faster than that at the end of this decade. So doing nothing means you have a total crisis and the current beneficiaries get hurt. Getting in front of this problem means not only are they protected, but the next generation actually has these programs. But that just took me like 6 sentences. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned demagoguery just says you're pushing grandma off the cliff, you're hurting people. People are afraid and intimidated by these politics, and there are optimistic demagogues, people who run for president, who campaign against this, that intimidates policymakers from taking a risk, putting their necks on the line, solving these problems. That's where we're stuck right now.
It seems like another place where we always end up stuck is dealing with immigration, border security, all of those pieces. I'm still one of those who believes we could probably solve 94.5% of it in an afternoon, because everyone seems to agree, left and right.
They do.
But no one's willing to do it because it's such a great campaign fundraiser. It's a great wedge issue for political campaigns. How do you see the border and the immigration component to that? Because it seems that's part of the solution to a lot of the other issues going on in the country.
So there is a solution, and there is a solution that I think, 80% of Congress would actually agree with if you could do it by silent ballot. So obviously secure the border, fix the asylum laws, they're broken. This is a fentanyl problem, this is a crime problem, that's an absolute problem. And the Biden administration has been absolute derelict in this. I think he reversed his position on the Rio Grande Valley today. I've been to the Rio Grande Valley. It's, I've ridden horses with the Border Patrol on that area. It's a very tough area. And we've always said you need a wall down there. And only till I think today do they acknowledge this. But there's more than just border security. You have to have legal immigration so that you can have visas given to people who are coming to contribute to our economy. not taking jobs from Americans, not reducing wages, but filling these massive gaps we have and these labor shortages in our economy. And if we do that, then we get faster economic growth. Keep nuclear families intact, but by and large, have visas based on what our economy needs so that people fill those gaps in the economy. That, according to the Congressional Budget Office, will grow our economy a whole lot faster. The challenge of this is we're projected to grow our economy a half as fast for the next generation as we grew it for the last generation. And the reason is people. We're not having enough kids, and we have a lot of people retiring. Immigration, good legal immigration, can solve a lot of that problem, and getting our birth rates up as well can help solve that problem. But that's demographics, and demographics is destiny, and demographics actually helps control how your economy grows. So we can grow our economy faster if we have smart immigration reform that respects the rule of law, that secures the border. But if you don't fix this debt crisis on top of it, it's going to be really ugly. But if you fix both those problems, just those two right there, the debt crisis and immigration, we're going to have a great century. You fix just those two problems, which have proved pretty hard to fix. Those are the things that if you do those two, you're going to have America in great shape. A good growing economy. The dollar is the reserve currency. Good jobs and faster economic growth for all Americans for the next generation. That's exciting, and it's within our control to fix it.
That's great. And it's part of that positive vision that I love, both in your time as Speaker of the House, as a member of Congress, as a vice presidential running mate with Mitt Romney. So as we close things out, give me something. You've been doing this one-man focus group on college campuses and places all around the country, inside of businesses and nonprofits. What's the one thing that you wish we were talking about that we're not talking about in this country, or something that's a little under the radar that we're maybe just missing as a crucial conversation?
Well, I mean, I just mentioned issues, but I think civility. I think we need to put a premium on civility, and we need to start talking about civility and what it takes to have a civil society. So I think we need to bring to the front of our dialogue and the front of our minds civility, because this digital culture we live in is very uncivil. And so that is what is ripping us apart. If we can keep our society bounded, if we can keep each other, from different walks of life in this common society with civil society, there's no stopping this country.
Fantastic. Former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, thanks so much for joining us on Sunday Edition today.
Yeah, good to be with you, Boyd. Thanks for having me.
That's what leadership sounds like. More Sunday Edition when we come back. We watched this week as bad political actors created chaos on the floor of the House of Representatives. Many, in the midst of their fiery debate to remove Speaker Kevin McCarthy, actually sent fundraising emails and texts from inside the House chamber, all while arrogantly declaring that the American people should trust them to lead. Lord Randolph Churchill, father to Winston Churchill, said that he had attempted to always manifest in his behavior his personal model: trust the people. True leaders in any field of endeavor trust the people, and they trust the principles they actually proclaim. Sadly, many modern leaders have given up on trusting people and principles and have instead attempted to derive their power through the manipulation of emotions. In particular, they've channeled the negative base emotions of anger and angst, fear and frustration to gain followers, garner votes, and get financial gain. Modern media makes it especially easy to play to those base emotions. A social media rant is a shortcut to stir up anger. A viral video moment can capture frustration or spread fear. A protest can, if not properly focused, lead to an overflow of angst. I've long called out Democrats and Republican politicians and consultants who drive those campaigns for politicians for deploying what I have dubbed the shampoo-bottle-model. For years, the directions printed on nearly every shampoo bottle read, lather, rinse, repeat. Those who don't trust people or principles have found this crass model a fast track to power, prominence, and campaign cash. So here's how the shampoo bottle model works. First, you lather people up with those base emotions of anger, fear, frustration. Put a great label on it like constitutional crisis, fake news, fiscal cliff, end of democracy, or a host of other fear-based, anger-inducing adjectives. Put it into an email or post or video or letter, and the lathering process is well underway. Next, the model goes, you allow the now lathered up negative emotion in those people to rinse that off. They can rinse off that anger or frustration with a nice $25 or $50 contribution to the cause or to their political campaign. It makes the individual feel like they're doing something to help. It's important to note that such contributions often get consumed by bloated organizations, salaries, and overhead costs. And then finally, of course, repeat. Not only is repeating good for the financial well-being of the contemptuous political industrial complex, it also conditions people to react inappropriately to negative base emotions. And it makes it easier for them to appeal to those emotions in the future. This is just one manifestation of what's wrong with many leaders today. Some leaders, in their attempt to drive behavior without trusting people or principles, just turn to pure fear. Scaring people into the right behavior can work for a season, but is never really sustainable. History has proven that great leaders cause people to think, feel, and act in ways that are authentic, not manipulative, and are grounded in trust of the people and trust of those principles. We often describe great leaders as dynamic. One definition of dynamic is to create energy, action, and change, to which I would add, based on trust. Creating energy, action, and change based on trust is the essence of true leadership in the 21st century. My wife Debbie and I once listened to a world religious leader delivering a very straightforward, challenging message, which some reacted to as being filled with hard things. At the conclusion of the talk, Debbie immediately made a comment to me that I love that he trusts the people so much that he tells them the truth. This leader trusted the people and trusted the principles he was teaching, and that combination is both powerful and transformational. During my time working in Washington, D.C., I often wondered if the Democrats and the Republicans really believed the principles they so passionately professed on the floor of the House and Senate, on cable TV, or their social media platforms. It really is the duty of every citizen to challenge politicians across the spectrum to trust and apply the principles they profess to believe. We should leave emotional manipulation to the tin-horn dictators and the two-bit tyrants on the ash heap of history. Churchill summed up his approach to political leadership this way: trust the people, and they will trust you, and they will follow you and join you in the defense of that Constitution against any and every foe. Thanks so much for watching us on Sunday Edition today. Great perspective from Paul Ryan. Great thoughts about how we trust the institutions. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us. And as always, as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference. Music and the spoken word is next.